You might be too young to remember, but SpongeBob was the cartoon that changed the game in the 2000s. That said, what you probably have no clue about is just how many terrible, low-quality cartoons are blatant ripoffs of Nickelodeon's biggest hit. The first bizarre SpongeBob knockoff on today's list has to be the strange, unauthorized trilogy of animated movies called SpongeBob in Tehran. If you didn't know, Tehran is the capital of Iran, one of the biggest countries in the Middle East. These low-budget and honestly creepy animations were uploaded to YouTube between 2017 and 2020. The creators didn't even bother changing the characters. This is a straight-up copy of the real SpongeBob, right down to the name, even though it has zero connection to Nickelodeon. Now that's what I call having no fear of a copyright lawsuit. Believe it or not, the first film came out in 2017, followed by a sequel in 2018 called SpongeBob in Chabahar, and later SpongeBob in Tehran 2, which featured underwater versions of celebrities, including a fish version of Brazilian soccer star Vinicius Jr. We can't deny it. Despite being a wild and awkward ripoff, they sure had guts, and maybe even some creativity. But that's just the first insane SpongeBob clone we're exposing today. Get ready to have your mind blown, because we're diving deeper right now. Right after that not-so-great SpongeBob copy we just talked about, it seems like a studio in Pakistan called Green Animation Studio decided the world needed even more underwater madness. So in 2018, they launched a disturbing version starring a pink starfish and his best buddy, a greenish sponge wearing square pants. Even though this time they tweaked the character designs a bit, they still copied the storyline, animation style, and overall vibe. And if that wasn't enough, they also copied the name. The result? A 55-minute movie uploaded directly to YouTube titled Bobby and Bobo in Iran, Save the Sybil's Gold. To top it off, even though it was in Persian and I couldn't understand a word, the voice acting sounded exactly like the SpongeBob we all know. A high-pitched, super annoying voice straight out of Bikini Bottom.
این بازی هم خیلی حال میده.
What we don't get is, why was the cartoon made in Pakistan but shown in Iran? These are two different countries that don't even speak the same language. A true mystery. But one thing's for sure, this ripoff is terrible. Let's go way back now to a ripoff that made history on YouTube. Although to be fair, it leans more toward a comedy parody. Known as SpongeBob in China. For a long time I actually believed this was a bizarre and poorly made Chinese version of SpongeBob created by some local animator. But years later, I rewatched that awkwardly funny video and found out it was actually a parody made by a Dutch comedy group called Boom Chicago. It hilariously, and even a bit darkly, imagines what SpongeBob's life would be like if he lived in China. Just a heads up, this video was made in 2012, nearly 15 years ago. In this weird and exaggerated alternate universe, SpongeBob still lives under the sea, but instead of a pineapple, his home is a Chinese takeout box. And on top of that, he lives in a highly polluted environment, clearly a jab at Beijing. And when he visits an ATM, he finds out he only has enough money to buy half a chicken. The animation is insanely bad, fully hand-drawn, probably by someone with the hand-eye coordination of a 3-year-old. Still, I have to admit, with a bit of guilt, I laughed at a few parts of it.
Wake up! Get out of bed! Do not eat that Western failure!
Now let's jump to the United States, ironically SpongeBob's own home country and the place with the most knockoffs of him. The first case on our list is probably also the most extreme. It's an adult parody of the cartoon created by the pop culture channel VH1, called SpongeBob Hempants. This version of the undersea sponge was supposed to air, but got completely shut down by Nickelodeon. The show featured a SpongeBob-like character who constantly smoked, let's just say, not regular cigarettes, if you catch my drift. And instead of Patrick, SpongeBob's best buddy is a talking pile of weed with arms and legs. It's funny, sure, but definitely not suitable for kids. Other characters show up too, like Sandy, who in this version is a total junkie in desperate need of help, among other things we really shouldn't even mention here. Bottom line, do not watch this version of SpongeBob that was intentionally leaked online back in 2010. Trust me, it's just not worth it. Still, since it's one of the weirdest ripoffs out there, it earns its place on our list.
Are you ready, stoners? Oh! Hold on, get. Oh! Who lives in a bung in a dormitory?
Before we dive into the rest of the worst and most bizarre SpongeBob knockoffs, hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Now let's talk about probably the most well-known SpongeBob knockoff of all time, Coconut Fred's Fruit Salad Island. After watching Nickelodeon rake in millions with SpongeBob, Warner Brothers, the company behind Cartoon Network, decided in 2005 that they needed their own version of Bikini Bottom. And that's when they came up with the bizarre Fruit Salad Island, home to a talking coconut wearing shorts and flip-flops, doing all kinds of weird, wacky stuff. I get that the goal was to make something kind of like SpongeBob. They really gave it a shot. But I swear, just looking at this Fred guy gives me the creeps. Doesn't he look kind of disturbing? Don't his eyes seem a little empty? Anyway, the show was such a huge flop that it got cancelled after just 13 episodes. If you think about it, SpongeBob has over 300 episodes, multiple spin-offs, and tons of movies. So yeah, we can definitely say that Fred turned out to be a very failed ripoff. But you'd be wrong to think that only Cartoon Network tried to reel in fans who love hilarious underwater stories. That's because the almighty Disney, the world's biggest animation company, did the exact same thing back in 2010 when it launched the animated series Fish Hooks. The show follows Milo, Oscar, his brother, and B. Goldfishberg, 3 teen fish who live inside tanks at a pet store and attend freshwater high school. The series combines high school drama with totally over-the-top adventures like giant lobster attacks or trips into hamster cages. Just like SpongeBob, Fish Hooks is set in an aquatic world, though this one is in a tank, not the ocean, sticking to the idea of a weird and funny life underwater. Even though it's clearly inspired by Bikini Bottom, we've got to admit Disney's take isn't bad at all. Actually, the series is pretty fun and silly, with episodes filled with bizarre situations and over-the-top reactions from the characters, kind of like what we love about SpongeBob. And on top of that, the main trio is basically a Disney-fied version of SpongeBob's crew, with Milo being the SpongeBob equivalent, Oscar as the Patrick type but way smarter, and Bee and Sandy both being the smart, tough girls of their squads. There's no denying the show looks and feels a lot like SpongeBob, but hey, if you're gonna copy, at least make it entertaining. Maybe Cartoon Network could take a hint. The series ran for 3 seasons and had a solid 110 wacky episodes. Moving on with our list, let's talk about another cartoon that you've probably never seen or even heard of. And I say that because even I hadn't heard of it until I started doing research for this very video. It's an animated show released by Cartoon Network in January 2011 called Almost Naked Animals, which takes place in a tropical resort called the Banana Cabana, run by Howie, a loud goofy dog, and his wacky team, Octo, a nervous octopus, Bunny, a short-tempered rabbit, Duck, Piggy, Narwhal, Sloth, and a few others. Right away, just looking at the show's logo and poster, you can tell they tried once again to include underwater vibes with seashells and starfish on the beach, probably hoping to grab the attention of SpongeBob fans. And believe it or not, some of the smaller details clearly show they took at least a few ideas from Nickelodeon's hit and repackaged them. For example, the main character, Howie the dog, even though he's a totally different animal, is bright yellow like SpongeBob, and his voice is almost identical to the one used by the Krusty Krab's fry cook.
Dirk Danger's birthday is coming up, and they've decided to hold a surprise party here at the Banana Cabana!
Also, his best buddy is a purple octopus, which looks a lot like Patrick Star, and there's a girl in the main crew named Bunny, a rodent just like Sandy. The only difference, one's a bunny, the other's a squirrel. Too many coincidences, don't you think? The show ran for 3 seasons until 2013. Meanwhile, SpongeBob is still going strong after more than 25 years on the air. We've talked a lot about animation companies trying to copy SpongeBob, some from faraway places like Iran and the Netherlands. But what if we told you that Nickelodeon itself, the very studio behind the square-pantsed Sponge, ended up creating its own knockoff of its biggest hit? Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly what many people thought when the kids' channel launched Bunsen is a Beast. In 2017, the show was all about Bunsen, a little blue monster who becomes the first beast to attend Muckledunk Middle School, a human school. He quickly becomes best friends with a boy named Mikey Monroe and the quirky Darcy, all while clashing with the main antagonist, Amanda Killman, who's determined to get Bunsen kicked out and stop monsters from mixing with humans. Okay, but what does any of this have to do with SpongeBob? Simple. Bunsen is basically a land-dwelling blue monster version of SpongeBob. He's got the exact same type of voice. He's obsessed with being liked and making friends, and just like SpongeBob, he's got those big round eyes and over-the-top energy. The show only lasted 1 season and quickly faded into oblivion. You probably wouldn't even know it existed if you weren't watching this video right now.
Please say hello to our new student, Bunsen.
Hi, new students! What's up?
And that's it for our list. But don't leave just yet. We've got 2 more videos right here on the side so you can keep the fun going. Pick one and let's jump into the next one.